Hey guys, welcome to our podcast Behind the Sinners. I'm here with Julian Pineau, who's one of my clients and
Indeed.
now one of my friends. We've spent the last 72 hours together torturing him.
Mostly you torturing me, but yes,
Yeah. First up, Julian, would you introduce yourself and what you do?
So I'm the owner of a company called StrongFit. I started as a movement specialist. So I've been in sports my whole life. I've been like literally as an athlete. And so I went through, I did many sports as a kid. Then ended up falling into MMA, from there into strongman. But the entire time I was always a better coach than an athlete. I was a good athlete, but I was a better coach because I realized I was 19, 20, that was my vocation. Like I liked coaching people a lot more. I like making people better.
Yeah.
My obsession is getting better myself, but I really enjoyed seeing people make progress. And so that led me to become a movement specialist because I ended up dealing with people always coming with injuries. You know, the shoulder doesn't work right, lower back, knees, all that stuff. And then as I went through that, at some point I realized that there would be no people without pain and no performance without dealing with issues like anxiety and depression and all that stuff as well. So it's taking me into a journey of really discovery about human beings, which is really my favorite subject. I like humans. And I believe you do too. So I think that's why we connected right away. It was on the same thing.
Yeah.
I like craftsmen, I like passion, I like people. And so that always has driven me toward helping as much as I could. After that, the mean, whether it's tattoo, movement, whatever, it's a mean to an end, but that's all.
Yeah, it's all the same recipe.
Yeah, at the end, it's about passion, right? About people.
Yeah.
So you always fall in the same place. And you meet people like you, and again, regardless if it's tattoo or fitness, we'll find the same ideals everywhere.
Yeah.
Because you end up coaching too.
Yeah. I think also the great thing about coaching is that it gives you a lot back. So it's like I said with the law of attraction, you give and you get.
And I think you learn a lot from coaching.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Like about, it's something I discovered is the more I teach, the better I understand the principles that I teach. So it allows me to make progress too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It made me a lot
it's
better.
like saying that knowledge is power, but knowledge is only power if you know how to use it.
And if you share it.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I think you gain a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Like teaching each principle allows you to learn it yourself. Because as humans, we tend to maybe be good at something, but we only know how to do it subconsciously.
Yeah.
And when you start teaching someone, you will know in a conscious state of what you're actually doing.
I agree with that. Yeah. And he exposes your own flaws suddenly because you say something, you go like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like, oh, that's interesting. And you get feedback from people, which is still the main thing. Like over the years, I had some very interesting questions for people that forced me to think about what I thought I knew very well in a different way. And that opened like a lot of rabbit holes for me.
Yeah.
So I get so much out of people. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's interaction. Right?
Yeah. And they end up teaching you something as well.
Most of the time. And it's funny because it's not necessarily the people at the top that taught me the most. Like I had a lot of very interesting ideas coming from people in my own community, like just asking the right questions, saying, hey, I read this, what about this? I had an idea. And those are the ones that opened the biggest doors for me. Not the guys at the top, with their very highly specialized knowledge, which is great as well, don't get me wrong. But it's that interaction with people with different ideas, different point of view on the same thing that has opened the biggest doors for me.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'm sure you ended up in the same place, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how that works for you because you obviously are an expert of what you do. So what do you progress on? At your level, you're so good at what you do. Where are the little progresses, the little wins that you find?
Well, that's because you think I'm good at what I do. I don't think I'm very good
still
at what
not.
I do. No.
Still not. That hasn't changed.
No. I think I'm I think I guess it all comes down to ambitions in a way,
I'll agree with that.
So if you would ask me on a scale how good a tattooer I am, from zero to 10, I would say 4. That would be my.
And that's how you see yourself.
Yeah. I don't see myself as anywhere near where I want to be.
Technically, mentally, artistically, everything.
Everything. Yeah.
So it's like zero. You learn every day till the day
for
you
sure,
stop.
for sure. And I question myself all the time. Also with your tattoos, of course. I question myself, was that the right approach? Should I approach it this way? Because there's so many different ways to do things, you know. There's so many different ways to pre-edit them, and like, for example, like on statues before I worked a lot with textures. Like now I'm actually starting to make everything a little bit more smooth, less textures, working more on technique based, like really smooth, nice, clean work. Yeah. Where before I would work more on textures and stuff like that, so I changed it up all the time. If you'd go back, just 1 year, you would see like my work wouldn't have near as many details as it has now. So for the last 1 year, I've been trying to really push the level of details.
I find that fascinating. So that's more on the. Would you say that's more on the technical work then?
I think it's it's what I can endure mentally. In this, in the period of time that I have, I guess it's like
really.
It's like
it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's like when it makes sense from when Jordan B. Peterson this lecture where he says that you have no idea how effective people can get.
That is true. The capacity to work at a high level for long hours.
And it's really as well with tattooing, because it all comes down to let's say a machine runs with a certain speed that allows it to puncture the skin 150 times per second.
Yeah.
Ow.
Huh? Ouch.
Yeah, 150 times per second, and let's say that you're working with a 15 Magnum, it has 15 needles. So it's 15 times 150.
That explains why it hurts so much. Yeah,
which is extreme amount of puncture wounds. Yeah. And if I can touch your skin 3 times in a second compared to 1 time, I would be 3 times more effective. So I really had to think about making fast choices, because most of my clientele is international. So I have kind of a time frame to work with them, because we'll say, I'm going to spend 15 sessions in the sleeve. It will be extremely expensive for traveling back and forth. So I'm constantly trying to mentally be able to push my effectiveness. So while I'm tattooing, really be tattooing and take conscious choices every second. So I don't think too much. I don't look at too much at the reference. I look at it, check out the values, get my ideas, and then I tattoo from my head. And I think that's also what creates style in a way. Yeah. Because I'm not trying too much to follow the reference. I'm trying to follow the basic rules of realism. Like, how dark is this? Is that compared to the light and stuff like that? I'm not changing the light sources and stuff like that. Right. I'm merely changing the expression, like the illustrativeness of it. So I've really been trying to being able to mentally take faster choices, move my hands faster, because constantly I have to think about, okay, I can do this fast.
Takes a lot of confidence too then.
Yeah.
You have to develop that as you go.
Yeah. And in tattooing, I have a shit tons of confidence, more than most. So a lot of people, I think if you ask me, that is the most wide mistake that tattoo artists do, is they shade too light, because they are scared of doing something too dark. So they end up, we break them up into tones. I work with 5 tones. And if they see something in the middle tone, they might go for the soft tone. Because they're scared, so they will spend more. Yeah. So they're gonna build something up with the soft tone. But the thing is, when something heals, it will always go back to the true nature of it. Yeah. So they chose a tone too light. So after heal, it will be too light. Yeah. So yes, you have to have a lot of confidence in looking and applying.
So your vision of it, basically, how you visualize the piece, you have to trust that that's basically that's gonna come out. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that allows me to understand values and tones that fast as I do is also that I used to do color realism. And we do color realism, value and tones are way more complex. You could look at a color and think, that's like a soft tone. Yeah. But in reality, it's a middle tone. But it's very hard for the eye to actually look at a color and recognize the value of the tone. So knowing the values of color will make it very easy to see the values of black and gray.
So you had a great evolution as a tattoo artist then.
Yeah.
Right. So they would have to, But it's an interesting conundrum because that means you're going to have to start with the color realism just to learn to do black and white.
Yeah. Like to understand values very
well. Yeah.
Very well. It will make you. But it's the same principle of, let's say, the Russian people. They see more colors than we do. They can actually see more colors than we do. Because instead, in most countries, I think actually every country except for Russia, we call things for blue. We say that's blue, that's a light blue, that's a dark blue, and that's a blue.
Done.
It's like there's 3 blues. But in Russian language, they call each color by a name. So it's not just blue, it's a turquoise, it's a aquamarine.
So then they have more variations.
They have way more variations, and that information allows them to see more colors, which normal people don't.
To process,
They process because they have the information, and so they actually do see more colors than
more shades of
than
of
other
blue and
countries
stuff like that.
because it's in the information.
So that's very interesting. So when did you switch to pure black and white then?
5 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I guess I was frustrated with the process of recognizing all those values, and I had to think so much working, and it became more like pushing so hard every day. It just became exhausting in a way. So
very much so.
Yeah. So a little bit of the fun went out. So when I started doing black and gray, it became really, really fun again. I don't have to, when I did a color tattoo, I was like, okay, I have to find these 25 different colors. And within those 25 different colors, I mix and match my head. It's like, okay, I need this color. I'm going to match that with a brown and a blue to get this color. So in the end, I would maybe have, 100 different colors in a tattoo.
Or probably more than that even.
Yeah, probably even more than that. And I have to be able to know the system to go back to that. So like, I use that color there, I mix from that to that here.
You go
so
crazy
it's extremely
after
complex, extremely complex to do. So going back to black and gray is just like same 5 tones every day, 5 choices.
But then you can get good.
Very
easy. Really good.
Yeah.
At that one.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing. We're talking about the documentary Jiro, right? It's the same thing. He has the same sushis every single time, and he just tries to get excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
But that must have been really taxing, though. Like, with all the colors and things like that. Do you get exhausted after a day of work? Physically or mentally? I'm curious.
Not really.
Not really? Oh.
No. But it's back to what you do, and like we haven't like properly introduced what you do, but you work with, especially with depression, anxiety.
Lately, I've been doing a lot of that.
I have, as we talked about, some form of
baseline.
Anxiety with a high baseline, so I'm not really.
Oh yeah, so you're always on.
I'm always on.
Always on.
Always on. Yeah, I've been always on for many years.
For many years, yeah.
But I think I'm on differently now than I used to be. I used to be very on mentally, and I've been very focused the last couple of years to be on physically.
Well, that's quite important, right?
Yeah.
But to explain, there's a negative connotation when we say anxiety, which I think is also a huge part of the problem, because then it falls into some kind of category where if you have anxiety, it's always bad.
But everyone has anxiety in some form.
And which is good, by the way. That's what people have to understand is anxiety is a function. The nature has no reason to give you something that just hurts. So anxiety is a function first. It's not bad in any shape or form. Anxiety, for example, you can see as something that gets you up in the morning to go to work, to go. Even like before I go we have big training sessions at the gym with my team, and I'm always anxious an hour before the workout, but that's a good thing because it's preparing me for the fights that's coming.
Yeah.
It's like before a competition, you need that energy, otherwise you're never going to perform well. So it's not bad in that sense. So usually people talk about anxiety when it gets to the point where it becomes dysfunctional, which means it's prepare you for a fight you think you can't win. So then you're more anxious. Because the anxiety is just building up toward a greater fight. So if you think you cannot win that fight or you're in a bad position, then that level of energy keeps going up to the moment where it starts to become dysfunctional. It starts to eat you alive instead of being used. But I think it's very important that people understand anxiety is not inherently good or bad. It's just a function. It's like peeing. There's no good or bad in this. It's a function of the human body. Anxiety is supposed to prepare you for what's coming. And so there's nothing bad about it. I don't want to lower that energy that you have on a daily basis. You would start to lose your drive, your mastery of what you do, your artistic side. Why would you want to ever lower that energy? The problem is when we can't keep up with it. I mean, when it starts to get to a certain degree, and that's mostly what I've been working on lately, has been with people. I've been that, because I have a lot of artistic people, I also a lot of financial people, but the drive is always the same. Is at the end of the day to get better.
Yeah.
Then they have an easy way of doing because they can count money. But it's the same idea. It's just to get better. At some point, it's just the race is the same. It's not even about others. It's you becoming better at what you do. And so you, in a way, you need anxiety to be like that. You need to wake up in the morning going like, all right, so it matters to me a lot that at the end of this day, I'm better than yesterday. And if I don't, I won't feel good.
Do you think that people that don't perform on high level in their craft, skill, or whatever, not use this anxiety?
Not nearly as much.
Yeah.
This
like,
is, you'll find,
avoids anxiety.
Right, so they'll have anxiety, they'll have an issue like dealing with stress. Like, for example, because some people will go, I have anxiety all the time. Yeah, because you can't deal with stressful situation, but that's not the same thing as very driven people like you, like like some people have in the financial world where you deal with stress very well. That's not the problem. The problem is that super high baseline, that constant, like I'm on all the time. That can take you far. So most people that are not very driven, it's not so much that they get anxiety from that high baseline. They get anxiety because they cannot deal with stress properly. So that's a different aspect of it. So you have a lot of different kind of anxiety.
More like fear of coming out of the comfort zone.
Right. It's going to be that because they think that they can't face the problem outside of the comfort zone. So they go back to what they know. So that would be what is called intolerance over certainty. Right? If something is not certain, they're not sure they can handle it, so they don't want to go there. And so the idea of going there...
Instead of failing, they never try.
Right. Because the idea of going there, like they go, oh my God, I'd much rather back off than just face the issue. But it's not the same thing of a high baseline person who's like, oh no, that's exactly what I want. But then they want it all the time.
Yeah.
And so at some point, that can drive you toward... a specific state that can be less than optimal. Because that's always, for me, the question is never to tell people with a high baseline to go do yoga. That's not the point. The point is how do we get that superpower that you have that allows you to do what you do, but making sure it doesn't destroy you in the process.
Yeah.
Making sure it doesn't take you too far. You've seen that with chefs where the rate of burnout is very, very high, right? And sometimes they can take it to the point where they go actually crazy.
Yeah.
And they have like physical symptoms and stuff like that. So that's too far.
Yeah.
I think we all know when even the very driven people, I think we both are, we know when it's too far.
Yeah.
There's a moment where you go, okay, like I need to chill it at least for an hour now. It's getting to the level. So the work that I want to do is how do I keep you at the highest baseline possible that is not taking you to that stage where suddenly the physical symptoms would not let you do what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to be able to be on.
Perform a consistent level.
Yeah. And like what, 5-6 days a week for you, and then you still have to run the studio and do your seminars and do and talk to people. That's a lot of energy spent on a regular basis, right? So I can't lower your drive. I just have to make sure it doesn't kill you in the process.
Yeah.
So that's been mostly my drive, because too much of what you see today toward anxiety is just putting people on pills and telling them just then you'll be fine. The problem is they don't understand what the pills do. The pills put you back in the center. The pills takes your lows away. So people have a hard time dealing with stressful situation. That means whenever something happens, and at some point it's anything, they just fall completely down. Like they back off so much, they crash. So the pills will take that away. That feeling of being super low, the pill will put you in the center. What people understand is that those pills will also take the highs away.
Yeah.
So if you're depressed, you'll take the lows. If you're anxious, you'll take the highs. But in either way, you're going to be in the center. Nothing ever happens in the center. You don't get better.
I don't think I'm ever centered.
No, but you don't get better.
I'm either high or low.
You don't get better in the center. So what I want is to keep you at a high that is manageable for as long as I can, so that you don't have the lows. The lows comes when you went so high, basically the system has to back off.
Yeah.
Almost like a recharge mechanism. It's just you spend so much, this time is like, all right, we need to back off so I can recharge. But then that brings lows that are very low.
Yeah.
So let's say out of 10, you're at an 8 all the time. Maybe I can keep you at a 7, because 7, you can maintain it longer. And then the lows, instead of being a -6, I like to make it a -3. So like you have to chill. And then eventually keep you at a 7 with a low at a +2. So that you know when to deal with it. And so that's an entire system that I developed and still obviously working on. Is always that. Is like when there's moments where I need you, you can't be at an 8 continuously. So, but when you work, you need to be that. All right, so when can I put you at a lower level based on what your body needs? And through the stuff, based on circadian rhythm and a number of things, the idea would be to allow you to be at home at a much lower level, which would be beneficial anyway. Because I'm sure being at 8 at home is not always the kids, wife, right?
Yeah, that's the problem also, because you can't be as present on 8.
It's a different kind of present. Right, exactly, right. Yeah. It's like supposed to play with the kids, and then you're like, oh, that's interesting shade of black. I bet I could, right. And so you have that.
Oh, I could do that with the business.
Yes.
Or,
exactly.
You have traveling thoughts, for sure.
Right, exactly. And so you're like, but then they start to take over. Those intrusional thought patterns start to get over. They, even at the moments you don't want to, they start to come in your life constantly.
Yeah.
You can never leave them.
That used to be very hard for me.
Right.
Yeah.
To back off.
Yeah. I would be, especially with my first son, in like the first year or two. That was probably the most the period that demanded the most of me. So I was very mentally, like I would never really be present. I would constantly be thinking in patterns and repetitive thoughts and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. So that's when it becomes dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Because you want that.
That was
time.
very dysfunctional.
Yeah, exactly. Because you want that time with the family when you need to. So that's really been the system been working on me. And usually that's evenings, right? It's not during the day. So it's high during the day, and not low, but lower at night. So you can actually be present, but a different kind of present where you just relaxed with the family. And that's what you find that driven people have the hardest time to do, is to be a different kind of present where they can just be chill and like I'm just enjoying the company. For very driven people, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because you look for patterns no matter what, and I know.
Yeah.
And with the kids, they don't care. They just want your attention.
Yeah, so, the kids don't care. No,
kids don't care. They just want your attention.
They want your attention. Yeah. They also deserve a bit of attention. So they should.
Fortunately,
attention.
I know. I can say because I have a kid too, so I'm fine. But that was a lot of the work for me. Because I went through this. Plus, I'm a single father with my daughter, so I went through that too, realizing that sometimes I was not present, I was present, but not the present she needed.
Yeah.
I mean, and that bothered me.
Yeah.
That bothered me. I was like, I gotta be able to find a way to let that go whenever I leave work. There has to be a time when I'm like, okay, now I'm that.
Yeah.
Now I'm her dad.
Yeah, like in the now.
Yeah.
In each.
But in the now, right?
Things,
yeah. Like. And of course, like the thought patterns kept on coming. So I figured like, because that's my auxiliary specialty, I figured maybe through exercise I could try to manipulate that and do things like that. And over time I found that there are modality of exercises that will allow you to be that kind of present, like the family type of present. When you just look in, you're more relaxed and everything. And at first it felt extremely strange to not be at 8.
Yeah.
That felt very weird. And I was like, I'm not sure I like this. Because I like, what do I do now? What if I get stuck there?
Yeah.
What if I get stuck at 2 and I can never go back to it?
You lose the superpowers.
Didn't happen. But yeah, you lose the superpower. So I didn't like that. But I understood the need for it.
Yeah.
That was forced on me by my daughter. Otherwise, I don't think I would have ever discovered this. I mean, but once I got there, I was like, all right, so let me make sure I can go back to 8 whenever I want. So I messed around with that a lot during the day. And then after a while, I grew the confidence to actually, okay, let me try to spend an entire night at 2 instead of 8. And let's see what happens the next day. And the next day I woke up, I was less tired. And then I jumped out of bed and I was like, oh, it is working. And so then I was back at 8, everything was fine. And then I discovered that actually you can find a balance between the two. And when you do, it actually allows you to tap into your superpowers even better.
Yeah.
That was an epiphany for me.
Yeah.
That was important.
It's like managing resources better.
It is.
Like
and
going on standby.
Exactly, when you need to. And the problem is if you're always at an 8, you can't go at a 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to be sometimes at a 6 so that you can jump to 9 and go back down. And then so you can manage your intensity better. That's why I discovered is like it doesn't have to be the same number all the time. That's a control mechanism that I had where I was like, well, I need either 7, 8, doesn't matter, but I need that number all the time. What I discovered is no, you don't, because situations require a 5, then you give a 5. But if I give a 5 when the 5 is required, then I can give the 9 when the 9 is required. What I found is that by being at 7 all the time, when I had to go to 9, it was harder, because then the energy wasn't there. So I learned to modulate based on the situation. That was a skill I had to learn.
Yeah. But do you think that all this used to be organic?
I believe so.
So it's kind of like forgotten in the process.
Yeah, I believe it's a skill. I believe all craftsmen, learn from a master. And I think that was one of the many lessons the master gave his apprentices was managing the drive. Like you see that in Japanese culture a lot and things like this. Yeah, I believe organically we knew how to do this. But back then we had one job like you would dedicate yourself to. Like in today's society, you don't see that anymore. Like you see people dedicating themselves to one activity from young till old. You don't see that as much.
No, it's very much different activities.
Passion is, or maybe I'm looking at history the wrong way, but I found less passion in people's jobs now.
I think when I look at it perspectively, I find less discipline.
I would agree with that.
I think also discipline is creating passion. These small values of discipline that allows you to go on a higher level. Yeah. And when you're allowed to go on a higher level, you can create passion. And I think a lot of people, they don't have the discipline to create that higher level, so they never find passion.
Yeah, because they're never good enough to get there. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like that's something that I discovered over time, is that you don't do things because they have meanings. Things have meanings because you do them. Yeah. You have to put enough energy into something that you do so that you develop meaning. It's the spending energy into the things that creates the meaning for that thing. Yeah. Which can be done very negatively for you. That we see that in many situations. But to go back to your point about passion, I think the passion comes out of the energy that you spend doing something. Yeah. And so that's why, the passion is always what you love, because that's that moment when you started to go, I like this, when you start putting energy, and over time it developed meaning. And so it's the same concept as discipline to create passion. Yeah. I believe that's where it is.
And I think that's why Japanese is also so good.
Exactly.
Because it has in cultural, in the culture, they have built in very strong discipline. It's something that you are taught to have discipline and do things well. And I think that is also what are lost in society.
At least in the Western society. Yeah, exactly. Western society.
And I think that, to be honest, I think I could do many things and have fun.
Yes.
I could be a clothing designer, I could be a painter, I could be a tattoo artist, I could be a coach. Or I love doing seminars and all that stuff too. And I love teaching. So there's so many things that I love. But I think it all comes from wanting to do them well. Yeah. If you do something half, I don't think you will ever feel true passion about it.
You'll never love it, yeah.
And also, you need to be able to fail to have passion.
Right. But all this always goes back to the same thing. That's the thing also, I think, why people do 17 different things. Is because then failing never matters, and you can always move on to the next one. Putting all your energy into one thing and failing, now that hurts. That's hurt, but I think that's where the discipline and then all that stuff comes in, is to go I fucked it up, let me fix it.
Yeah.
Let me do better.
But also, it's like we talk about anxiety has a negative phrase to it, but as well as failing, everybody sees failing as a negative thing, but in reality, failures is the only thing that makes you grow. Yeah. It's like every time that someone comes to me and said oh, I did this and this, I failed with the tattoo, it's great. If you did it perfect, you can learn from it.
So now you know what not to do.
Now you can actually learn from it. Doing something great has no learning curve in it.
This is my biggest problem that I have with coaches that I see. It's exactly the same thing. It's a lack of discipline it's a little bit the same idea. Sticking with one thing requires a lot more willpower than people imagine. And today I think people are soft, honestly. But it's very easy to be good at 20 things. But if you want to... My biggest problem is in America, for example, they say you can be everything you want. Now, no, you can be anything you want, but you can't be everything that you want. Because guess what? To be really good at something, it's going to be one thing. Yeah. I mean, there's more virtue in one virtue than in five. You're gonna have to put all your energy into one thing and get really, really good at it. And that requires so much work, so much failure, so much discipline, so much energy put into it. And that's why in coaching, I see not as much of that as I would like. You know, like they do the work, but they don't do the work. I mean, they don't put like their soul into it where it requires every single thing.
No.
That's what me, as a frustration when it comes to in the fitness industry, is I see that. I don't see people committing themselves like true, like, you know, body and soul to the craft.
And how does that make you feel?
Oh, so frustrated.
Yeah.
This is why I go watch documentaries about Japanese craftsmen, because I can then for 20 minutes I feel like I'm talking to someone I understand. I'm like, exactly. I mean, I've been doing this for forever, but so I took it from just movement at first and sports, but I took it further, but in the same aspect. It's still based on movement. I like sports because the idea of moving correctly attracted me. Yeah. So you work on technique. Why? Because then it's flowing, it's beautiful. It's like I want that technique. I want to be able to feel the movement that well. You know mastery when you see it. I don't care if it's tattoo, food, or whatever. You know mastery when you see it.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted out of movement. I was like, I need to master movement. It's just that opened so many doors. Yeah. I was like, okay, I got to go through that one.
Funny thing,
and through that one.
It's often, you know, someone does something and don't understand that is the thing that's going to apply to the next passion, you know?
Exactly.
It's like I often talk about, I don't think I would be where I am if I wasn't a chef before. I used to be a chef, so I used to work on a very, very high level because that's what you do in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to take that skill and put it into tattooing and I work on a very, very high level with a very high efficiency and a willpower that is not as seen in tattooing.
And discipline.
Yeah, and discipline, because I think that is what tattooers lack often is discipline and the also just the willing to fail. And I think that's also what's very, very hard for people is that we constantly work on skin that someone has to wear forever.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to acknowledge that you fucked up someone.
Forever.
And you have to do that on a daily basis. You have to say, like, I didn't do my best, because you can never do, I did my best for that day, but my best for tomorrow will be different.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel bad. And they think like, this has to be flawless, or it's not there. So instead they invent the ego to tell them, I did great, I did perfect. I was like,
but that stuns them as well in their development. That's the worst thing they can do for their own development.
Yeah, but most people do that, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, that's why there isn't as many craftsmen. Because I think,
I can relate.
You know, it's a lot of people, they think that you can be good based on time. I've seen tattoo artists that tattooed for 20 years that doesn't match the level of an apprentice I had for 4 months. You know? And then they tell themselves that they're good because they've been tattooing for 20 years.
For so long, yeah.
But in reality, time doesn't really matter, except if you can acknowledge to fail every time. Yeah. And I think that's what it's kind of like, you know, everybody some way has this magic moment where everything's changed. Mm-hmm. And I used to tattoo for, I don't know, I guess I tattooed for 4 years and stuff. Mm-hmm. I thought it was the shit. In reality, I was very bad. And I was doing whatever the fuck. I didn't know anything about drawing. I never apprenticed with anyone. I'm fully self-taught. And when I started tattooing, I couldn't draw. So I started from fucking nothing, you know?
Just by
I had no master, no nothing. I just started tattooing. And so I did very bad tattoos for the first many years I tattooed. And I didn't understand any rules, any basics. And I invited one guest artist. His name is Chris Gurman. And he came to me and I was tattooing this tattoo and he said, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what do you care? What do you mean? Like, I'm just doing my thing. Yeah. And he's like, you can't do that. I can't do what? Like, you're putting orange where it's supposed to be black. You can't do that. You're fucking up the light source. If it's black, it can't be orange. It would never make sense. And then for the first time my brain clicked. It's like, okay.
What am I doing?
Yeah, what am I doing? Is there rules and how do I do that? And okay, I can be better and stuff like that. So I started doing tattoos and I would post them on a forum and say, fuck me up, you know? And they would critique me.
Oh, that's a rough one.
Yeah. So
that takes some balls.
I didn't have anyone to teach me.
I don't know, but that takes some balls though.
Yeah. So that's I did that hardcore every time I tattooed, the thing I kind of did to build up everything is also, that's what it's all about, sacrifices. So I started tattooing, I tattooed like 5-6 days a week, and I only charged money 2 days. That days I would do whatever clients wanted me to do and make some money to live.
Yeah.
All the other days I would just do free tattoos. I didn't care, because if I did them for free, I could spend as much time I wanted to, and I could do whatever I wanted. So I could do my thing every day. So I could sit there 12 hours doing one piece. I could take a picture of it, post it somewhere, and they could tell me, oh, this sucks, you should need to do this, you need to add more contrast, blah, 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 blah. I would like retouch them, try to do it, post it again, and then just do new tattoos all the time, post it in that forum, until I kind of like got the vibe of understanding myself. What to do, and then starting to invite guest artists and get influenced by them and stuff. But
That's a rough way of doing it.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome, but you chose the rough road.
yeah. You need to get out there, and that's especially if you can't.
That's a great mentality. I love it.
A lot of people, they just say like, they just stay in the same room.
Yes.
And it's like we have this quote like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you have to leave the room.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also people kind of like, they don't take responsibility for their own actions in life, you know? There is extreme amount of information out there to get.
It's not that hard to get.
No, it's
We
just
have the
you
internet
wanting
now.
to do
Yep,
it.
exactly.
Like a lot of people, they work in a tattoo studio with someone better than them, but they're not even gonna watch them work.
Yeah.
They have every chance.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
see that
down
all
to
the time.
strategies, you know? If I can teach someone to move their hand exactly like I do with one technique, they can do exactly what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So people, they don't look for strategies. They can, in reality, sit down, look at you, decode your strategy, and do the fuck you do.
You have to steal knowledge.
Yeah, but not many people steal knowledge.
Yeah.
So I found different ways to do it. I didn't have anyone smarter than me in the room, because I was the only person in the room. So I found ways to steal knowledge. I would take the tattoos I like the most, like the artists. I would take their work and I would start editing my tattoos exactly like theirs to find out how do they do the contrast. So I would sit with their tattoos on the side, my editing program side. I would try to do exactly the same amount of black, same amount of skin tone, same amount of everything, and I would tattoo it. And I would do that 10 times. Then I'll find someone new. I'll say, okay, the way he does filigree is amazing. I'll try to look at his filigree, draw it, recreate it 10 times, and just build up that portfolio in a sense. Because I think it's all about stealing. You steal small, tiny bits from many great ones, and you become yourself. Because you have, instead of, everybody likes different things, so nobody steals from the same artists. Yeah. So there's an endless amount of artists you can steal from, and you put these small things into arsenal, that makes you.
Yeah.
So I ended up stealing from all of the people I like the most, and I became me. And now I just try to recycle what I do.
How long did that take you?
To become me?
Yeah.
I don't know, 8 years.
After that break, that 4 year, when you have the epiphany that, okay, I
then
don't know
started doing
shit.
color realism.
Yeah.
All the way. So for 2 years I did only color realism. And then I started to do black and gray. And for 2 years I probably did black and gray without, then I kind of like started to do the elements that I do today.
Yeah.
So it's like these small things, like doing the lettering, that just stuck with me. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Because I think also...
So that's the last 4 years for you.
Yeah, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago since I started doing the lettering, slowly doing black and gray, the high contrast thing, which are just refining. And it's like you say with Jiro, he drew into sushi, he creates the same sushi every time. Yeah. And I try to recreate the same tattoo every time. And people will be like, oh, well, like people say often, you know, oh, of course he can do nice women's faces because he's done them a million times, you know?
Yeah.
To excuse themselves not being on the same level.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, this is just photos, and it's all boxes. It's all like a box of tone with another box of tone. If you could do realism, you can do whatever kind of realism.
But even musicians have. Bob Dylan was criticized for doing the same song over and over again.
Yeah, but that is design language.
Yeah.
You will never get successful if you don't do the same things. I don't see any artist in this world that just not do the same thing over and over. You know, everybody does their thing, and that's what creates you. Yeah. So some people think that they have to do everything different, and
And they're very good at it.
And then they'll say, "Oh, I don't want to be like that," because
No,
because
but don't be like that.
failing. They
Okay,
don't want to
don't
do
be like
the
that,
same
but be
thing and
you.
not be on the same
Yeah,
level.
because that's my problem is, don't be like that, but
Yeah.
be you. You can't just not be someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
You also have to find you. And it's not the same.
No.
And I think that's the biggest mistake that people make is by trying not to be somebody else, they think they are them. No. You're just not someone else. It's not the same thing as being you.
I actually stopped looking and getting inspired by tattoos in the same way I used to. I stole from all those artists and I stopped.
When?
That's probably 2 years ago.
2 years
I
ago?
kind of stopped looking at tattoo artists and I started looking at people instead. So I went into fashion and got really inspired by streetwear and like the rebel side and how you use graffiti and stuff. Like you saw how I built my studio.
Yeah.
So my studio
I love that.
My studio is completely inspired by Greek mythology and streetwear. So I took those two images. It's like again stealing like an artist. I started stealing these references from Greek mythology that I liked, and I mixed them with streetwear influences that I liked. So it's like it's these things. If you understand how to steal an idea, you can make it completely new. So you saw the hallway, like it's created of full glass, and it has hue system behind, so it can change into any different color. And we have the 80-inch screen TV, which can change into any kind of visual and reflect the colors on that.
And so you did that so people know.
I did that
because
inspired from a Parisian retail store called Colette.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, you know, it was maybe the most iconic retail store ever, and it was run by a mom and her daughter, and they lived and breathed it. So they had these small principles that inspired me. They had one principle that they needed to have new goods in the store every day. You were never allowed to walk into the store and see the same things. So they had new items every day. On top of that, they would almost every night, or I don't even know, maybe even every night, change everything. So nothing was the same. They would change the installations and stuff like that. They lived and breathed it. So when the store closed, they started changing things. And that made me think, how can I make a rule that changes so people don't experience the same thing? So what we're doing right now is we're building more than 30 different visuals. So every different day has a new visual. So the chance of now you're here, you're experiencing visuals. Next time you're here, the chance that you will experience the same visuals are very, very low. So every time you enter the studio in a new way. So it came from them changing up there. So I wanted to create something that gave you a different feeling when you entered every time.
What I love is that you spend the time and money to create that.
Yeah.
Because in a tattoo studio, why would you, right? Yeah, exactly. But there's no reason. Who cares about the studio, right? It's about a tattoo anyway. Yeah. And then you went the other route. No, I want the experience for people when they walk in.
It actually came from me getting tattooed by some of the most well-known tattoo artists in the world, but not having good experiences. And I found out that I could have tattoos done by my wife, like an ice cone, which gave me a way greater emotion that tattoos done by the best artists in the world.
Now when you look at it, it matters more.
Yeah. Yep. So since I had bad experiences, they became worthless to me. They had no emotional connection.
It's a very good point about tattoos, actually.
So I started thinking, okay, I believe there is something here. The experience itself on that day will manifest yourself into your tattoo. So we started creating a new concept where we wanted to give the customer the best experience for them to have a better manifestation of the tattoo.
And a better tattoo at the end.
A better tattoo at the end because they will love it more because the experience was great. So that's why we wanted to create. Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, I'm very inspired by Michelin chefs. Like that is my biggest inspiration, and I've always said I want to run to the studio like a Michelin restaurant.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's exactly that. Because I've been into a bunch of them, even the 3-star. It's always that. It's you leave with an experience.
Yeah.
The food is great, but I've seen small restaurants that have great food. Maybe not as great, but you know what I mean. But it's the experience.
Yeah, it's the experience.
That to me is what matters the most. Very interestingly speaking, in a way, when it comes to training, you end up with the same thing. Your experience changes the way you move. So, heading a workout, heading your coach or stuff like that will actually change the way you move. People don't understand how much the experience of the human being doing whatever it is that is doing actually changes.
They will
so
change the
much.
posture.
Yeah, they will. Almost the way they're going to move. So they have like torque chains that will they will move differently. Almost use different muscles. traps versus lats or stuff like that, because they are in a specific state.
Yeah.
So the state changes everything. But even like from all the work that I do, you all the way up to the chemical level, to the hormones being released, and the state that you are in will change all the way up to the hormonal level. And so I believe it's everything. And so I think you are the first tattoo studio that cares about the experience of people walking in that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So when I got in, I was like, this is awesome.
But we wanted to change that.
That's awesome.
Well, it's also, tattoos are expensive.
Yep.
Most of the time.
Yep.
And I think it's like you go in, let's say you buy an expensive fashion item, you get a very good service.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And I never think that the industry lived up to what they were charging in a way, you know?
Sometimes, I agree. I'll agree to that.
I think it's one of the only industries which are like, I don't care. You know, it's like, what the
it's because you haven't seen fitness coaches.
I've heard many times this phrase. A lot of people think bad about me because I do it differently. You know, people are always scared of people doing it differently. You know?
Yeah.
And I've heard the phrase many times that it's just a tattoo. But
hell no.
Yeah, but many tattoo artists say that. Most tattoo artists say that. Oh, come on, it's just a tattoo. And for me, it's so much more than a tattoo.
Yeah.
For me, first of all, it's a ritual. It's a traditional ritual which has been here for thousands of years. And I think a lot of people forget the full ritual thing. How does it feel to get tattooed? You live it. We go in it every day. So people tend to just make it a normalized thing. But it's not normal for people that doesn't sit with it every day. It's a strong ritual and it's very emotional. It's very dominated in some sense. So there's so many feelings connected with that. And you get something on your body forever. So to me, it's really not just a tattoo. It's a ritual. It's a tradition. It's a very big experience.
Tattoos are so emotionally charged.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy to think it's just a tattoo. I'm saying that thinking like it's the same thing in the fitness industry where people, it's just a workout. Well, it depends how you do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the workout can bring a lot of stuff depending on how you do it. So yeah, it's very interesting. We are facing the same frustrations and issues from two fields that you would think are completely opposite. Not that much.
No.
I see the same, I see the exact same problems.
High level in something often requires the same.
Yeah, you end up in the same place.
Yeah.
For me, I've built everything that I do on the experience a person will have. We have built workout just to make someone experience something. Yeah. Not to get something, six-pack or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, no, that's not the point of the workout. The point of the workout is to create a certain state of mind for you in order, for example, lower your baseline or whatever. So in that sense, I do things completely differently, where I try to create an experience for the person working out instead of making them work out to get something.
Yeah, you work. So but it's way more focused on a health base.
Yes, mental health, physical health.
Where it seems like a lot of fitness coaching is more based on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's what you see.
The surf thing, like a six-pack or whatever, but not really what's underneath.
Right, and then they'll tell you health and performance are two different things, which is the dumbest thing ever, because you can't perform if you're not healthy. No. Because it takes, just for like tattooing, it takes years to be good at something. Yeah. It's like jiu-jitsu, like it takes on average 8 years to get a black belt. Yeah. That means that you can't get hurt badly for 8 years. Otherwise, I mean, shit happens, but that means that you have to make sure that, your body is functioning properly in order to get good at something. Same thing for lifting, powerlifting, or whatever. So health and performance are joints. And if you're not healthy mentally, how can you get good at anything? Yeah. I mean, you can, but then you'll crash down and then you'll have to rebuild yourself. So now you've lost 3 years of your time where you could have gotten better. It's the same issue that we face. And unfortunately now the fitness industry everything is 8 weeks based, because that's what you can sell. So it's bastardize everything so that you can put it in an online program so you can sell it for 8 weeks. Yeah, it won't work.
Get to something real quick.
Right, and anything that you do new for 6 weeks will work, by the way. That's the biggest lie. It doesn't matter if you haven't trained and you do something new for 8 weeks, it will work. Yeah. Regardless of what it is, whether it's yoga or CrossFit or whatever, for 8 weeks it will work. You might get very, very sore if it's CrossFit, but anything works because it's just an extra stimulus. But then the problem starts. Then you have to start doing it better, because otherwise you're going to start hurting. But that's not what you see in the fitness industry. Fitness industry now is, how can I bastardize in a way that I can sell it to the biggest number of people in a simplest way.
Yeah.
And so that's mostly what you see.
Yeah.
And that's where my frustration is. I'm like, do you realize what else we can do with this? Past the six-pack, we can help people with mental health, physical health. Like, it's not like we're winning the war on obesity right now, I mean, or chronic illnesses or anything. We're not winning this.
No.
And the people I can truly help are the coaches in the fitness industry, because doctors now, they just put you on pills. That's what the pharmaceutical industry is driving the medical world to be. And so the people that are left who could do the most good are the fitness coaches. That is my true belief, is that fitness coaches are the chosen people. Like they are the one who can do the most good in this life right now, in the Western society right now. And they're not always seen as good as they should be seen better. Like in movies, society-wise should have a better vision of coaches in general. But on the other side, I see a lot of them not putting the effort that they should be.
Well, I think it's a lack of information.
Yeah, but they have people's health into their hands. I would like to see them more moved by that.
Yeah, but I think what I mean is that I don't think that people know how much like physical things can change their health.
Yes.
It's divided into two.
Well. Yeah.
There's a physical aspect and there's the health.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that it's linked.
That's true as well. But someone has to do the education. And so
exactly.
my job, is to urge coaches to start that.
Yeah.
To not just promote six-packs, but to promote more health and to explain to people how they're going to get it. It's easy to say be healthy, but you have to explain how.
Yeah, but that's also, I would guess, like, I believe that everyone who's very, very successful at what they do, they have like a star ambition.
Yeah.
I believe that your star ambition would probably be that training physically would be acknowledged on the same level as medicine.
Yes, but it is. Oh yeah, well, I mean, we know it. Yes, we know it is. It's just not being seen. So yeah, it's exactly that. I'm pushing as hard as I can against the medical world, saying no, we're just as valuable as you are.
Yeah.
If not more.
Yeah.
I think we're more. But
whatever.
That would be that's the war I intend to rage till the day I die.
Yeah.
And then someone smarter will come about and keep on going through the same thing.
Yeah.
But I want to see people do better.
Yeah.
And that is the one thing I'll never relent on. I just want to see people do better. So whenever I see something going the wrong way, there's a voice inside of me that goes like, no, we have to steer the ship. So I chose, but as you said, you have to choose one thing.
Yeah.
To be good at it. So I chose that because that's what I know. I know movement because that's always been my thing. I'm an expert at human movement.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And
but you have discipline with details. You know?
Yes, tremendous.
And that's also, when you say one thing, I also believe that you do many things that connects into one.
Right, because you find the same patterns.
Yeah, because they're the same patterns.
Yeah.
It's like, I saw this documentary that the old Persian archers, they actually knew that if they performed all painting, they became better archers. So all Persian archers used to do all painting because it allowed them to be better archers. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So for me, for example, it's been I got better at all that physical stuff. I know it sounds weird because I love studying quantum mechanics. Yeah. Because so there's Leonard Susskind, people like that put like fascinating videos online that one day started to catch my eye I started to, I don't have the physics level to go very high, but it's a subject that interested me tremendously. And that happened to lead me to a guy named Schrödinger, like the guy with a cat, who wrote something about biology where he was mixing quantum mechanics and biology, and that eventually led me to the greatest neuroscientist today, who is Carl Friston, who talked about the same thing from a mathematical perspective. But I could have never understood what Carl Friston was talking about if I had not studied quantum mechanics first, and mathematics, and then so I've studied to get good at movement and people. I've studied stuff that have, you would think, nothing to do with it. Yeah. Quantum mechanics, Bayesian inference, like stuff that are just pure mathematical and everything, but I was like, because there's a principle there that if you understand everything. Yeah. And so I constantly get to movement through crazy sources, which means I lose everybody on the way there. which is people in my community will laugh when they'll see that podcast because they know exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm always referring to stuff that are completely out there, but at the end, they all say the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
Those are true principles, by the way.
Yeah. It's also, but I also think that I read a lot. You read a lot.
Yep.
I think also when you read from like coaching or
Yep.
whatever self-educational books, they always end up having the same pattern. in a
Yeah.
way. It's everybody's
They say
saying
the
the
same
same thing
thing.
in different
Yeah.
ways, and each time you hear it, you start understanding it differently. Like it's that lack of like the information. It's like sometimes you don't have the information to understand something.
Yeah.
You read the book, you never understood it, but suddenly somewhere else it's told in a different way
Right.
that allows you to achieve
Yeah.
the information.
And the door opens because I've read books now, like 20 years after, where I go, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
no, I get it. And I'm
Yeah.
sure 20 years from now it'll be the same thing.
Yeah.
You open new doors. There's so much I don't know.
There's so much.
There's so much I don't know. I find myself very stupid.
The more we know, the less we know.
Yeah, that's pretty much when I wake up. But it's funny because it drives me forward so much because I'm like, all right, then that's my day. When I start, get to the coffee shop, start reading.
Yeah.
If I do that, I have 2 hours of hard reading and I'm like, all right, I made a dent.
Yeah.
I didn't move the world, but I made a dent.
Yeah, and the same.
And then the next morning, I'll make
Information
another
junkies.
dent. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next morning, I'll make another dent. And who knows what I'll find tomorrow.
Yeah.
Look what I found today. So who knows what I'll find tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's always a drive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it leads you in good places.
Yeah.
It leads you to good places.
It's great.
Yeah.
So how about depression? You're working on, we already talked about anxiety,
Exactly,
but
right.
you also work with depression.
Depression is also a function. It's, in a way, if you look, it's a reset mechanism. It's something like the way you have faced situations was incorrect. Like you see that, for example, you're in a relationship, you think everything is great and she leaves you. So then it crashes you because then you go like, wait. All my set of values, all that I thought and I didn't see it coming, that means that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So, I'm wrong in my values, I'm wrong in the way I look at things, in the patterns that I saw.
Your
How did
identity
I
is wrong.
how did I possibly miss that? So then suddenly you have an identity crisis because you did not see it happening, something that was so dear to you, right? And so you need to do a reset.
Yeah.
You need to be able to look inside and go, all right, where was I wrong? Because obviously this hurts so badly. This is important. I cannot make that mistake again. And at that moment, it hurts so bad, that's definitely something you think. So if you just keep going through your life and just keep moving forward, then you're never going to learn from it. So you need that moment to just reset everything and look inside. And that's really what depression is. It's that sadness that when something bad happens, when it makes you go, oh, okay. And the first thing you think is, let me just sit down and figure this out. That's what sadness does. It forces you to look inside. It just stops you from going crazy left and right.
You have to fix this problem.
Sit
I'm
down.
gonna make you feel bad until you fix this
Sit down, look in the mirror. That's what sadness does. And when you're sad, you look in the mirror going like, all right, dude, what are you doing? That's why you have to sit down and go, okay. So the problem starts when you get stuck there.
Yeah.
Now that's a problem. When you get stuck, it's a year later and you still can't figure out how to get out of it. Now that's a problem. But the first moments are necessary. Sometimes you have to sit down, look in the mirror and go, okay, like I did not understand this. When that guy came, that guest tattoo artist came and everything, I'm sure for a couple of days you were like, oh my God, what have I been doing?
I've had some severe depressions in my life.
Right.
So I had two.
Like, so probably one after the kitchen, I'm guessing, as a chef?
No, one, my mom has ALS, so
that's me.
Yep. So like the fact of me adjusting to her having a death disease, like incurable, all these things becoming, she can't do nothing. Like now she can't do anything. She can't talk, she can't move, she can't do nothing.
Oh, she's at that stage.
So me processing that gave me my first.
Well, safety is gone.
Depression.
The person, your caretaker, who has given you safety in the world, suddenly cannot anymore. That's a hard reset.
Yeah.
Can
Just
be a very hard
understanding.
reset.
You always go into the conclusion of why, and you have to understand that the person changes. There's a lot of, like with that disease, there comes a lot of person changes.
You face your own death.
Yeah.
on mortality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff
That's
like
always
that.
a strong moment.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've tried those things where you have to dig
Well,
deep.
and for someone who's so driven forward, suddenly just facing your own mortality is hard.
Yeah.
Because you're always invincible, always, because
Yeah.
you're moving forward. And then suddenly there's something you cannot control that makes you think that you are maybe not always invincible either. That's a hard one. That can make you reset a number of things.
Yeah.
Right.
But so the difference is that some people get stuck. Is that, would
Yeah.
you say that's because they don't deal with the problem?
Right, so then there's different kinds of depression, right? And then this is where we enter the phase where we don't know. Like
Okay.
there's so much stuff about depression we don't know. For example, we know that the way out of depression is socialization, right? So you have to think about your values, but after that, it's connection to good human beings that will really get you out of that. But then you have weird pure physical things that relate to depression. For example, we've seen that depressed people lack 2 specific colonies of bacteria in the gut flora. The same 2 specific ones. It's been done over thousands of people, and they saw a huge percentage of those depressed people, not all of them, but a huge percentage of people missing 2 specific type of colonies of bacteria. Why? We don't know. Is it one causing the other? Where's the causation? We don't know. We know there's a correlation, we just don't know the causation.
So would bad relationship with food
Yes.
be able to
Like for example, we talked about Jordan Peterson, his daughter Michaela. When she went into the carnivore diet, she reduced the inflammation that she had because she has autoimmune disease. Once she removed through that the inflammation that she had, her depression symptoms went away.
Okay.
So
For carnivore, she started eating meat.
yeah, that's why she did it, because
She was a vegetarian?
she's a pure carnivore diet.
Oh, she was
person.
a-
Yeah. And then when she did that, because she limited the sympathetic effects of food,
she started eating higher proteins.
high
only
protein,
meat.
because that promotes a parasympathetic side of things. So she limited any sympathetic trigger from food, and so that lowered her inflammation, because inflammation is a sympathetic reaction.
And what was she having inflammation from?
Autoimmune disease. That means she attacks the body attacks itself, if you want,
okay.
right? And so it's a
Like
sympathetic,
an allergy in a certain way.
it's something just very strong, right? And imagine an allergy that attacks your joints, that can attack anything. So it's a sympathetic trigger. Like, when you cut first, you get inflamed. That's normal. That's the body trying to fight any germ that could get in.
Yeah.
And so once you have the sympathetic reaction, then you can go toward the parasympathetic reaction, which is the healing phase, right? And so people like that have a very strong inflammation because they're always into that fight mode. Like the body tries to fight stuff, except of fighting outside, it fights inside. So it can get to nasty places. Just by lowering that inflammation, by triggering a more parasympathetic side through food, she lowered her symptoms of depression to the point where I think she doesn't have any anymore.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, right, so we know there's a correlation between inflammation of the gut and depression. That is, the gut flora composition has a correlation with depression. There's a number of things about depression we do not fully understand. And one of the main reasons of that is because, again, we put a negative to it, where we don't see it as a function, we see it as a disease.
Yeah.
Why would nature create a disease that just fucks people up for years at a time for no reason whatsoever?
Yeah.
There has to be a reason.
Yeah,
it's not a
always intent.
disease.
Well, nature is always perfect.
Depression is not a disease. It's a function.
It's a state.
It's a state. It can get dysfunctional,
Yeah.
where you just keep being stuck in it. So the way out of that is to find why you're stuck in it.
Yeah.
Is it you mentally that just cannot reset yourself because you can't make new choices? So why? Like, then you can look at abuse early on that taught you that this is good when actually wasn't. Like a very self-destructive behavior you thought as good when it wasn't. So now you're just running in circles and you can't get out of it. Then something like psychotherapy can help you. But there's also purely physical causes like inflammation, like the gut flora, like things like that. So are you also in a state where depression lives in what is called a dorsal vagus nerve anyway, parasympathetic, where you just can't find the fight anymore? All right, so maybe I can use exercise to bring the fight out of you, right? So there are many, many root causes to depression that are far more complex than the medical world just wants to put out there. And all you see now are pills based on, and most of the pills for depression are either serotonin based or noradrenaline, just for the technical aspect. And noradrenaline is a neurotransmitter of the sympathetic nervous system. So we go back to the fight mode.
Yeah.
The key out of depression, a lot of time goes to the fight mode. The fight mode in today's society, where are you going to find it? You're not, right? So the gym is your place. Go do kickboxing, go do jiu-jitsu, go lift weight, but intensely, not steady cardio. Just go fight something. Whether it's the treadmill, that's not enough. But whether it's weights or someone through kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, whatever. But you're going to need to find the fight in you again.
Yeah.
That's the way out of depression. And so you can be weighed down by that by a lack of physical action or by a moment where you need to reset a number of values that you have. It's not a good moment, but it's not a bad moment either. It allows you to thrive in life when you do that.
Sometimes it will take you to the next level.
And so, who said you were going to enjoy it, by the way?
Yeah. Not everything has to be pleasant.
Not everything has to be pleasant,
but
and that's a big problem
back
today.
To failing.
Exactly.
It's the same.
Exactly. No one says, when you say failing, by the way, you're not saying you're going to enjoy it.
No.
No one says you're probably going to very much dislike it.
Yeah.
No one said you have to enjoy it.
It's always a problem in front of you that you have to solve.
Right, but I think one of the biggest problems you see now is people cannot accept not enjoying something. People, for whatever reason right now, have that idea that they should be enjoying every second of their life. I'm like, how?
Yeah, but that's also, again, as I think, lack of discipline. I think that's what discipline allows you to do.
Yep.
It allows you to eat all the shit that you don't want to eat to become good at something, for example. And
understand that this is life.
Yeah.
Life is pain. If someone is telling you anything else, they're selling you something.
Yeah.
No one said you're going to like it. When we say fail, you're going to dislike it. That's the point.
Yeah.
It's because you dislike it that's what emotions are. Emotions are just a part of a learning system, of the learning system that the body has. The higher the emotion, the more you have to learn. Either learn to avoid something or to do more of it. If you look when you're in love, it's like, well, I need more of that. And when you actually hate something, because you need to do less of that. They are part of the learning system. You can't have only good emotions and not great bad emotions.
No.
Like they live together.
No high without no lows.
Exactly. Then now you're back with pills in the middle. So if you want great highs, you need to have great lows.
Yeah. I think it's also based on some of it is also based on the way we raise our kids. I think Julian Pineau, I read the subject of him saying don't try to stop your kids from skateboarding. So it's very much normally to stop your kids from going into dangerous things, and you want to protect them and stuff like that. But that's also not allows them to develop, get out of the comfort zone, and all these kind of things.
And fall.
Yeah, and fall.
And sometimes break your legs. And sometimes break your leg.
And then don't want to see
go
their
back
kids
on
fail,
the
so they'll try to move them in directions where there is no failure.
Yeah, even in Finding Nemo, which I'm sure you've seen, this was taught in society, like the need to fall, break your leg, and go back on it.
Yeah,
this was taught at all levels. It's like at some point, maybe it's a recent thing, but where we have that idea that that a good parent should take care of, should not see their kids failing. I'm like, you're insane.
Yeah,
that's the worst thing you can do. It's like we see that in the States, when they were always cleaning their hands all the time, making sure there's no germs. And I'm like, no germs. Yeah. Do you understand how this works?
Fuck up your immune system.
Exactly, but there's always going to be germs. By the way, you're not going to avoid them. All you're going to do is weaken the immune system of your kids, so they get more sick, which will make you freak out even more, which will make more sick, freak out, more sick, and then you get a disease that goes through, and everybody's sick.
Yeah.
You see the same system. There's a softness toward all this that I find. Maybe we do, maybe as a society, we have removed too many of the hurdles, too many of the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Like someone has to be daddy again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To teach someone, like we have a lot of mummies right now, and Facebook is a big one with all those motivational quotes and all that bullshit. Someone has to be daddy and go nah, man, that's not that's not how the real life works.
Yeah, you can't feed yourself 3-second motivational quotes and think you're gonna get anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you think that's enough to make you a good person, you're mistaken, by the way. Yeah. It takes a lot of work to be a good person.
Yeah.
Like it's not just not being a bad person, it's not the same. To be a good person, you're gonna have to work at it.
Yeah, to truly wish someone the best.
And sometimes put yourself past that, or to work hard on the little things. Like for example, you work hard on being a good father, even though sometimes it was hard.
A good teacher.
It is hard.
A
Yeah,
good teacher.
right. And
which I think is
patience.
also one of the not so taught. Like people don't want to. Like it always is always my main goal when I take an apprentice to make them better than me. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah.
But that's the main goal,
Yeah.
for them to exceed me, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of mentors, they are afraid of their apprentices exceeding them.
They're not true mentors.
So they don't really teach them.
Yeah.
You know,
they're
because
not
of
true
fear,
mentors. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it's again, you give someone, if you know, the best position you can put yourself into is make someone try to reach you, because that can motivate you to go to the next level.
You won't be bad anyway.
No.
If you're truly driven, you'll work.
You want someone on your side to kick your ass.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Push me a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see what you can do. Yeah, I have my assistant for that.
Yeah.
I've been teaching for the longest time, like 6 years now, and he does stuff I can't do.
Yeah,
now.
Exactly.
And I'm like, ooh,
makes you want to
interesting.
be able
how
to do that
you
as well.
One? Yeah, because now I see him do stuff. I'm like, how do you do that one? Yeah, yeah, but those are. Then there's when I see him do well, there's a pride.
Yeah.
In me too, because
Yeah,
I'm like
exactly.
I taught
Yeah.
him that. That feels good.
But that's also working from no fear.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have no fear. When it comes to that stuff, I have no fear whatsoever.
No.
Like I have progress to make, but I have no fear whatsoever when it comes to the stuff that I do. I know exactly where I'm at. Yeah, I've absolutely. When it comes to teaching, I have no fear whatsoever. Like I'll give 100% of what I know to someone.
Exactly.
I have no problem with that. I want to do it. I'm like, please.
Yeah.
This knowledge is for.
But that's
come
the law
steal
of
it.
attraction. The more you give, the more you get.
Oh, totally. I totally believe that.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The more I teach, the better I feel. That's why I started my podcast, because then what I say is in the world. If it's in the world, it's not in my head anymore. If it's in my, that means my head is free for more stuff. So the only way I can learn more stuff is if I give more of it away, because otherwise it's stuck. As big as my brain is, there's so way too much stuff. So the more I give away, the more room I get to put more in it.
Yeah.
And that's literally why I started my podcast. Because then once I say it and someone sees it, it's not mine anymore. And I'm like, oh, I can let go.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't keep spinning in my head. I'm like, I can just let go.
Yeah.
It's not mine anymore. Maybe it's wrong, but at least it's in the world. It's not mine anymore. And now it just has his own life.
Yeah.
You guys don't like it? Don't listen to it. It's all good, but it's not mine anymore. So now my mind is free, so I can move on to the next shit.
Yeah. I think it's also like, I like that you say maybe it's wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a problem with someone saying something and then later changing it.
Especially 5 years later, I'm like, and by the way, yes, there's an evolution to the stuff.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
5 years, like when I go back
I told you this, but now I found a better way to do it.
Right,
So.
I say stuff. So there's one podcast in the fitness world that made me somewhat famous in the CrossFit industry. And I was watching it the other day, and some of the stuff I said, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I did not say that. Yes, I did. Because guess what? I didn't know.
Yeah.
I should have kept my mouth shut on it. When you don't know, anyway, that's another problem. But I said stuff, and now I'm like, oh my God, I know so much more. And I'll say the same shit 5 years from now. 5 years from now, I look at my podcasting. How dare you say that?
Yeah. It should be like that.
And by the way, and if you want to criticize me on what I said 5 years ago and not understanding that it evolved since then, thank you.
Yeah.
Then you don't know. Then you'll never be good at anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It just says more about you than it says about me.
But if you want to be good at something, you shouldn't criticize anyone else.
And the ones that are, they don't criticize people for an evolution. They know you evolve, you made mistakes on the way, whatever, man.
But as well, they don't put judgment on us.
But that's
I
why,
think to be really, really good, you have to get out of that. Because to be really, really good, you have to act completely out of love.
Yes.
You know?
Hate will never get you anywhere.
Yeah, like Misery Loves Company, you don't get good from dragging people
I agree 100%.
down and shit like that, you know?
I agree 100%.
So as well, you don't care about it, you know? You don't judge others. Like, others, like there's a lot of judgment in many industries, especially in the tattoo industry as well, a lot of judgment upon me doing differently. But I don't judge other people for doing it different than me. I think everyone is allowed to have their perspective on what they're doing. I do it my way. If you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. It's my way, you know?
Don't get tattooed by you.
No, exactly.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Don't come.
Yeah. But
it's so simple.
I never understood why. I think people spend too much resources on thinking about other people instead of just thinking about themselves.
And that tells you exactly where they are. That means you're not that driven toward you becoming better. Otherwise, you will not spend that energy on it. I never go. It's like people that come to your page to criticize on it. I'm like, I never go on other people's page and say anything. No. Why?
But maybe it's just because sometimes it's just easier to make someone bad instead of making.
I know, but I'm busy.
You know? Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm busy learning stuff. Why don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Why don't you spend that time learning stuff? There's so much. The information we have access to today, you have no excuse.
It's endless.
You have no excuse anymore. There's like Leonard Susskind, the guy for quantum mechanics, he's the professor of physics at Stanford University. He has all his lectures on YouTube.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. For free.
For free.
Go get them.
It's the most absurd thing ever. And Jordan Peterson had most of his lecture for free out there. Like, you have access to whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you're spending it on my Instagram feed criticizing something I said.
Yeah.
That's the part where I'm like, that again, that says more about you than it says about me. But this is where I'm
it comes
guys.
but it's again of springing out of fear.
Totally.
You know,
and this is where the love conversation comes in. It's like you need more love, not more hate, man. You need to dedicate yourself to one thing so you can find passion. And once you do that, you realize that that's a better feeling.
Yeah.
That your energy is better spent toward one thing done extremely well than anything else. That's still, I think, the way out of all this. Like the craftsmanship is the way out, which I believe we used to have culturally in most cultures. The French it was a huge culture for the huge things culturally for the French. Craftsmanship, you still see it with food, with art. You still see it within the French, and
design, fashion.
Right. So that's where, God knows, I criticize the French all the time, but I will give them that they still kept that.
Yeah.
That craftsman, that love, traditional love for craft. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. There's still
food on a high level.
Right. And if you look, that's what still keeps the French culture the way it is. It's a craftsmanship taken to a very high level.
Yeah. Paris will always be special.
Because of that, because of the food, the couture, the stuff like that. And when you walk around, you can still feel it.
Yeah.
There's still that. And that's the part that, and then French people, I just don't like anymore. But that in Paris, that's the key.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what we have to hang on to the most is that. And as we move forward to our technologies, prowesses and everything, that is the one thing I want to see people hang on to. Like, that's why I love Japan. That's why I love that part of the French culture. I love talking to craftsmen, is because that is the way humans work best.
Yeah.
I believe, anyway.
Yeah.
At least that's my belief.
In passion. With purpose.
Exactly.
I think that's
purpose. Intent. Waking up like you're going to do something today.
Yeah.
Like it's on purpose, I mean.
Yeah, I think that's also what drives most people crazy, is not having purpose. Purpose is...
And depression, like you look at depressed people, they wake up in the morning, they don't know why they woke up.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you wake up in the morning, you know exactly why.
I know, exactly.
Exactly, right? I wake up, my eyes are like, cling, let's kill something today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the key. And there are many ways to get to that, but that is still the way forward.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the talk, Julian. I think
it's
very nice to end this on the quote on purpose, because I think that pretty much sums up everything that we talked about today. I believe so. Yeah. And thank you for being on the podcast, and
thank you for all this,
for coming out, man. It was an honor tattooing you.
It was an honor to have you tattoo.
I did my very best. I do that every time.
I know.
It's on you forever, so I have to work hard.
I've been waiting a year and a half for it, so I'm extremely happy.
Yeah, I'm too.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.